Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry. Today we're going to be taking a look at what's ahead for Dragalia Lost Part 2, a special message from Director Matsura of the game. Now we got this a little bit after reset last night, along with our compensation for the issues in the New Year's raid of 3 single summon tickets, 3 Damascus crystals, and 3 golden fragments. So this is a really exciting new message of upcoming content, changes in quality of life and matchmaking, as well as finally addressing the issue that many players have with Wyrmprints, and there's at least something in the planning or thinking stages about what to do with Wyrmprints. So we're going to go through everything one by one, and I hope that this relieves some of the concerns that players have with the game lately, where they were getting upset because they were getting the Happy New Year Wyrmprint, or whatever it might be, whatever salt there might be around Wyrmprints, and some of the other issues with the game. I am really excited about a lot of these changes. I think it pushes the game into a very positive direction if these are materialized. But let's go ahead and look through these. The first thing we got was event information about the Gala. So it talks up Cerise, why she's a great addition to your team. And then at the bottom it says, the plan is to hold Gala Dragalia around every 2 months. And it does clarify Cerise may also appear in future Gala Dragalia events, so not really anything different from what we got on the info page of the showcase or the details page. And then it also talks about the preview that we received for the next facility event, the Circus of Dreams Summon Showcase. That's kind of the first time we've heard the name of the Summon Showcase. And Dream Big Under the Big Top. That's going to start on January 15th. And it features some vibrant and lively characters. To me, I could actually see either, maybe even both, the bleeding or energized mechanics coming back with this. Maybe if there's like a knife thrower or a sword swallow or something, they could have the bleeding mechanic. But also a circus feels like something that gets you amped up, energizes you. So you can't really make out too much of the characters there, and I haven't looked at them very closely. I know that there is also a serpentine-looking dragon if you go and look on the event preview on the homepage. So that is pretty cool to see. It's actually a draconic-looking dragon. Maybe there's a snake charmer type character. That's going to start next week. So all of that we kind of knew about before. But here we go, reflecting on part 1 and the direction for future updates. We've implemented all but one of the topics discussed in the previous What's Ahead, and I'm relieved to see our players are receiving the changes favorably. The one remaining point is about new content, and that is what we're going to talk about today. And they also address the treasure trade. A lot of people want to see insignias being added to the treasure trade lineup, and I'm actually okay that they're not there. It says it's something they'll be adding down the road at some point in the future. For now, I think it's good that they're not there because that's one of the things that people play. That gives people a reason to actually grind out and play those maps, whether in single player or in co-op. So I think that IO is still hard enough that it's kind of good that they're not there. Once we get into this new type of content that we're going to scroll down and see, that would probably be the time I would think it would make sense to introduce an insignia trade. Okay, the first thing though is adjustments to co-op and matchmaking. So the first one that we already knew about, the first piece of news, is that now both hosts and guests will spend Gather Wings. Stamina will not be used. And along with this change, this part is kind of new. In raid events, hosts and guests will both use Otherworld fragments, and we will do away with host rewards. We think that unifying resources expended by hosts and guests will make matchmaking easier. I totally agree. We will also adjust the recovery time for Gather Wings and the amount of Gather Wings expended in each quest. So that's also cool. That means that they could just line it up exactly with stamina to make it just as efficient, because right now, Gather Wings are pretty much less efficient than stamina to use on any type of quest. It just comes down to how relatively inefficient they are, because you're always losing a little bit of efficiency using wings. Now, additionally, we're looking into instituting a penalty for players who are repeatedly inactive during co-op games. We view co-op as an important part of Dragalia Lost, so we'll continue to strive to improve the experience and create a comfortable co-op environment. Also seems like a good change to me. Players sometimes try to be courteous. They'll put something like AFK host, and for an easy map, that may not make a big difference. Everybody else can complete the map on their own, but if it's a challenging map, then it does feel like a waste of your time when you go in and someone's AFK and it means you can't complete the map. So, though these changes will not be implemented until later, we will also make it so that multiplayer quests do not get interrupted when disconnected from the host by having the AI take over the other adventurers in your squad, and make it possible to set a goal when playing co-op so that you'll be able to match with players who set the same goal. That is also so cool to see. One of the most disappointing things is when somebody's the host and you get disconnected and you're just a sliver away from defeating whatever you were trying to do, and you lose all of that progress. So I think that having the AI take over makes a ton of sense. I'm glad they're going to do that because when you are the host, that's what happens. If somebody drops, the AI will take over and control their characters. And then the same goal thing, to me, what this says is if we want to restart a particular map because we're just trying to redo that map, or we're trying to stay in a room together because we're friends, hopefully that same goal addresses that. Because for the high dragon trials in particular, what I've noticed is there's so much trial and error. You keep having to attempt. If somebody makes one mistake, you have to recreate the room. Everybody has to group up. So if you have the same goal and it's like, play until we beat this, and you can keep the same room, that would be really nice. I think that would be a huge quality of life change. So overall, I'm really happy with how they're changing co-op and matchmaking. I think that some players were a little bit worried about Gatherwings versus Stamina at first, but where the game is at this point, like this week we have this half Stamina Imperial Onslaught. I'm just using my Stamina on Imperial Onslaught solo, to be honest, and I know that a lot of people are trying to join, and they're not able to join because people are probably playing it solo. So that's one thing I want to say is I think this is a good change. Moving on from there, we get to number 2, about summoning when starting the game. So every new player, is going to get one of the original 9 5-star adventurers when they start the game. That is awesome. Originally, when we started the game, back upon release and up until this point, you get a free 4-star summon, and I got Eleonora. I loved Eleonora at the time. That was the best case scenario for me. But I do think that 5-star characters are appealing enough. They're exciting. It feels really good to be able to get one and start off on the right foot. And I know some people are into re-rolling, and so they can get their favorite character with relative ease if they want to continue reinstalling this game. So I think that's super cool. And besides that, to kind of keep it fair, all existing players are going to get a 5-star summon voucher. So that is a random chance at a 5-star in that pool, but that's not a bad thing either. I mean, it's good that they keep it fair. A lot of players, that's just going to be Eldwater if they use it right away, but at least that's an option. Now for new content, this is where things get truly exciting. So the new type of content that's coming out is called Void Battles. The name is not final, and it will unlock upon clearing Chapter 7 of the main story. The enemies fought during these battles are a type of fiend that have transformed due to the effects of black mana, or dragons who have been corrupted by black mana and have lost themselves as a result. So it says, for example, this type of enemy includes Hypnos, who appeared in a previous raid event. As explained before, the difficulty for these quests would fall between Advanced Dragon Trials and Dragon Trials Master or Imperial Onslaught, and bosses will be added periodically. This is the biggest part to me. You'll also be able to use the materials collected here to create new weapons. New weapons appearing in this event have special abilities, so they should expand your options for creating teams. So as far as I'm aware, this is the first time weapons don't just have skills, they have abilities. And it could be that special abilities is just meant in a general sense and not in a capital A abilities sense. But either way, this actually makes builds custom. It makes them an outlet for our creativity, because right now you're kind of looking at maybe 2 options on weapons, either a 4-star elemental or a 5-star for your endgame characters and your favorite characters. This actually means that there are going to be multiple options depending on the stats and the abilities and skills that these weapons have. So here's a sneak peek of the sort of enemy you can expect. Seems like there are some tough battles ahead. And this is so cool. This looks like Dark Zephyr. Zephyr being one of the dragons that you can summon at 5-star. It is a strength-based wind dragon. And then here are some of the weapons you can create by defeating these enemies. And I love how these are styled around this boss. So I see this as the next big piece of content that players are going to try to face, grind out, just like what IOs are now, and how when we first started, Imperial Onslaught was very challenging. You know, it was hard. Even with a group, sometimes you would fail. And now, if you've been playing the game for long enough, it's gotten to a point where it's much easier. So hopefully this has that same bite to it when you first started off. You have to learn the bosses, you have to learn the spots of the map that you can stand in safely, and slowly, little by little, you'll be able to create these really cool customized weapons. So it says we're planning to open this at the end of February, only a little while longer to wait. And that works out pretty well for me. I feel like that's a good time. It hasn't been that long. I think that will put the game at around the 6-month point. It started in September, but end of September. So 5 or 6 months there. About Wyrmprints. This is the other big change, guys, and I am so happy to see this. This was one of the things I said that I wanted to see. This is something that will be addressed even later than these other types of battles, though. But we plan to change the way that Wyrmprints work. Currently, you can equip one Wyrmprint per adventure, but we are investigating the possibility of equipping a second Wyrmprint. We are considering restrictions of some sort along with this, but it would vastly increase options for building teams and raise the overall importance of Wyrmprints. This would even create new ways to challenge Advanced Dragon Trials. I 100% agree with this. Advanced Dragon Trials, in particular Hybern Hilda, right now you have a very narrow set of adventurers and max unbound dragons that you need to reach the HP cutoff alone to get to participate. Extra Wyrmprints don't provide a ton more stats. We're talking from one Wyrmprint, the most HP you can get is a little bit less than 200, and the most strength you can get is a little bit less than 70. So that's the extra amount of stats. But those abilities, getting to use some burn res, or some flame resistance, or some skill damage, this actually means you can really build and customize characters, because as things stood for these Advanced Dragon Trials, you had to use a specific Wyrmprint the vast majority of cases. So I love this change if this is how it works out. I'm fine with there being some restrictions because maybe some things are a little bit broken in combination with one another. I would even be happy if only the leader of the team can use 2 Wyrmprints because the leader is the one you take into co-op with you. But it says we'll share more details when we're ready to implement this change, so keep an eye out for more information. Those are all the points I want to talk about now in summary. We're going to improve co-op play. After that, we're going to expand your options for building teams and create a way for you to use those adventurers. I hope you're looking forward to it. So this is awesome to me because what this game is all about, in my view, is using your favorite characters, getting to customize your teams, thinking creatively with those builds, and that is what I love about the game. And so having 2 Wyrmprints, this is as big a change to me as skill inheritance was in Fire Emblem Heroes. And also having more weapon types, similar thing, it's kind of a similar change to Weapon Refinery, to be honest, because now there's legitimate choices you have to make. Previously, it was almost like, essentially for the end game in particular, there's like one build that you need to use. 5-star elemental weapon, high dragon Wyrmprint, and that was pretty much the end of it, and basically the best dragon that you had. Now there's actually some customization here, so I love this change. I hope that Wyrmprints are able to be equipped a second time, and I think that it addresses sort of 3 things at once. For one, it addresses the build thing that I just talked about, with how narrow the event Wyrmprints made our choices. Number 2, it helps out a lot with lower rarity characters because these 3-star characters that only had up to 75% ailment resistance, well, now they can get up to 100% by using a specific Wyrmprint, and it makes it so those 25% ailment resistance Wyrmprints don't feel useless. They actually have a reason to exist. And just in general, number 3, it makes it so all Wyrmprints kind of have a reason to exist, and you don't feel as bad summoning them. You don't feel pity broken because you can actually mix and match them now. So I really hope that is implemented well. I hope that that makes you feel a little better. If you've been summoning, if you've got that Happy New Year's Wyrmprint, then I would suggest for the time being that you hold on to your 4 and 5-star Wyrmprints. I know it's going to be a while. It's going to be after February, but for me, at this point, I'm going to hold on to mine. I'm going to hold on to my golden keys and golden fragments and wait and see what comes of this, because this is a really big change. And so I hope that you're excited about it. I hope that you're looking forward to these void battles. It sounds really cool. Let's see what they actually name it in the end. The 5-star summon ticket and the adjustments to co-op. Let me know what you think of all of it in the comments below. I'm very curious, for those of you who were getting a little frustrated with this game or were thinking about taking a break, does this reassure you? Does this change how you feel, or maybe make you want to jump in the future once these changes are implemented? Definitely let me know. Otherwise, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time.